So you have just turned 60 and have saved up £500,000 in your portfolio. And now you're asking yourself, is it a good time to retire? Just because you have reached those milestones, it may not mean you're ready to retire just yet. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through a case study and answer some critical questions. Hi, I'm Simon Alexander, founder of Streamline Financial Planning, and I help people secure their desired retirement lifestyle without the fear of running out of money. Before diving into this video, it's important to emphasize that this content is meant purely for educational purposes. Please understand that it should not be considered as financial advice or recommendations. Take a moment to review the risk warnings, which will appear periodically during the video and also provided in the description below. To put it simply, if you ever find yourself uncertain about a financial decision, I highly recommend seeking guidance from a qualified, independent financial advisor. Let's get started and dive into a real life example. Allow me to introduce you to a couple, Stephen and Susan Doe. As always, I've changed their names, details, and account values for privacy reasons. But this is a very common client case we come across at Streamline Financial Planning. First of all, Stephen and Susan are both 60. When they came to me, this is how their investments looked. They had £25,000 in a joint savings account. They both had stocks and shares ISAs worth £68,000 for Stephen and £44,000 for Susan, as well as defined contribution pensions worth £265,000 for Stephen and £120,000 for Susan. They owned their own home with £625,000 without a mortgage. So in total, their net worth was £1.15 million. Stephen and Susan were already clients of a big national wealth management firm for their financial planning needs. However, they were taken aback to learn that the total charges encompassing product, investment, and advisor fees for the ISAs and pensions amounted to 2.45%. Feeling dissatisfied with the perceived lack of value from their current financial advisor, they discovered that a total charge of 2.45% was regarded as very high. Managing costs is within our control, and it's crucial to ensure that the fees paid reflect the value received. I will address this a bit later in the video. After exploring their financial situation, our next focus was on their retirement goals. Although they are currently employed, they approached us with a key question: can we retire right now? Their thoughts on retirement activities are somewhat open-minded. They simply want to determine if they had amassed enough to retire immediately. With no children or financial dependents, their goal isn't to leave behind wealth. In fact, they aspire to have nothing left over when they pass away. In this video, we will do exactly that. We'll consider a scenario where both Stephen and Susan stop working today. We went through an expenditure exercise and itemized and broke down what they would like to spend in retirement. And they came up with a figure of £2,500 per month. This is their retirement essential expenditure. They'd also like to spend an additional £5,000 per year on holidays from the age of 60 to 75, 15-year period. We're going to call this their retirement lifestyle expenditure. All their expenses will increase each year by the rate of inflation. And you can see this here. Now let's consider long-term care. We're making some assumptions projecting that Stephen and Susan might need care during the last 5 years. From the ages of 90 to 93, residential care could be around £3,904 per month each. From the ages of 94 to 95, nursing care might cost about £5,291 per month each. I used an online calculator on the Painful Care website to estimate these figures. The link is in the description below. Again, these long-term care figures are today's values and will be adjusted with inflation each year. In retirement, people's spending typically follows a pattern. Early in retirement, expenses may be higher as individuals pursue activities they've postponed during their working years. This is often referred to as the go-go phase. With Stephen and Susan, they're planning on spending that additional £5,000 per year on holidays. They understand that they're still relatively young and want to make the most of their retirement while they are still active. As retirees get a bit older and settle into a more relaxed lifestyle, spending might stabilize during the slow go phase. With Stephen and Susan, they may enter the slow go phase around the age of 75 when they are expected to stop traveling. Later in retirement, retirees might get too old to be active and enter the no-go phase. Generally in this phase, regular lifestyle expenses drop, but health-related costs may increase, causing a spike in expenses. Again, we have factored this in for Stephen and Susan as they enter long-term care at the age of 90. It's crucial to anticipate these phases when structuring your financial plan. I wrote a blog on this, which can be found in the description below. With regards to income, Stephen's current salary is £75,000 and Susan's salary is £77,000. Remember, they would like to know if they could retire now. So we're not going to include their salaries going forward. But what about other sources of income? Well, in the future, they have state pension income. which is guaranteed inflation-linked income that starts from the age of 67. For the purpose of this case study, Stephen and Susan have both contributed the maximum 35 years of national insurance contributions and are entitled to the full state pension. The current state pension is £203.85 per week, or just over £10,600 per year. The state pension also increases in line with inflation each year, and you can see this here. So you may notice that as Stephen and Susan are age 60, they'll only start receiving their state pension at age 67. So what does this mean? Well, for 7 years, from the age of 60 to age 67, they will be fully reliant on withdrawals from their pensions and ISAs to fund their retirement expenditure. I'll demonstrate this to you a bit later. So what we're going to do for Stephen and Susan is project out. As with most of the cash flow forecasts, I've assumed a life expectancy of age 95. As selling their property is out of the question, we are going to determine if they have enough liquid wealth in pensions and in ISAs, which currently total £500,000, to fund a 35-year retirement, so from the age of 60 to 95. When constructing a cash flow forecast, it's crucial to consider assumptions regarding investment returns. After all, the growth of investments play a significant role in safeguarding the retirement fund from premature depletion. We based our calculations on an expected rate of return of 5.6%. The expected rate of return at 5.6% is an average of estimated returns from different asset classes in the portfolio. Keep in mind, this is before common investing costs like tax, fund management, advisor, and custody fees. It's crucial to understand that the expected and actual returns might not match, while past performance hints at future returns. There's a consensus among economists and regulators that future returns may not be as generous. Streamlining financial planning, we don't predict future returns. Instead, we use conservative estimates from sources for cash flow forecasts. For the inflation rate, we have assumed a figure of 2.2%. So if Stephen and Susan had to retire today, here's what it would look like. Their retirement score is 59%. It indicates that they are likely to run out of funds during retirement. This is the percentage of total funds needed that are expected to be available at the start of the planned retirement. So in other words, they would need another 41% more funds at the start of their retirement, so at the age of 60, to not run out of money. Another way to look at this is the retirement shortfall, which is 5 years. This is the number of years that Stephen and Susan will experience a shortfall where investments for retirement will not be sufficient up to the set life expectancy, which is up to the age of 95. But why the shortfall? Surely you must think that £500,000 is more than enough to retire at the age of 60. Well, this chart demonstrates it well. This chart is called the available investments chart and shows the available liquid investments that Stephen and Susan have over the projected timeline. On the x-axis, we can see that it starts at the beginning of the plan, which is today, and ends in 2059, when they are age 95. The y-axis illustrates the value of their combined investments, such as cash, pensions, and ISAs. It excludes their non-liquid assets, like their property. We can see that when they retire, they are more reliant on their liquid investments, illustrated by a decline in the line until the age of 67, when their state pension starts. At this point, they are less reliant on their pensions and ISAs to provide that income. However, the line continues to fall over the course of their retirement. The line indicates that the withdrawals from their portfolio are greater than the net investment returns of the pensions and the ISAs. And when they get to the age of 90, there's a sharp fall in their liquid investments. In fact, all of their investments are depleted a year later. This is the result of the high costs of long-term care. The red line indicates they would be required to take on debt to fund their ongoing costs for the remainder of their life. Now, they do have a last resort backup plan, which is to sell their property before they enter long-term care. This can release liquid wealth to pay for the ongoing expenses. However, this is their family home, which they have had for years. And as mentioned earlier, there's no plan to ever sell this property. But what if they didn't go into long-term care? Let's have a look at the chart if I remove the long-term care costs. By removing the substantial expenses associated with long-term care, Stephen and Susan's retirement outlook has increased to an impressive 97%. This indicates that they now have sufficient wealth, or just about, to comfortably navigate through their retirement years. The improvement is significant, making the overall retirement picture much more reassuring. You might consider including the cost of long-term care as overly cautious. Factoring in such expenses could potentially lead Stephen and Susan to adopt a more frugal approach in retirement, prioritizing future expenditures that are decades away. This cautious approach may hinder them from fully enjoying the retirement lifestyle they aspire to. Additionally, the need for long-term care might not even materialize, either due to a shorter lifespan or the absence of such care requirements. However, as we discussed earlier, I've included long-term care costs because I believe preparing for this expense is a necessity, ensuring a comprehensive and realistic approach to retirement planning. So for the rest of the video, I've included the costs of long-term care. Now moving on, I would like to show you another chart. Here's a detailed income projection chart. The chart illustrates the income sources over the projected timeline. So each bar represents 1 year and shows the different sources of income generated to cover the expenditure in that particular year. For example, we can see that withdrawals from the ISAs and pensions, as well as the payments from the state pension. And we can see that towards the end of the projected timeline, that the bars are higher, indicating that they will require more from their portfolio to fund the high expenses of long-term care. And that's where the red bars occur. Big red bars indicate an income shortfall. This means they do not have enough liquid assets to cover their ongoing expenses. Let's have a look at the beginning of the timeline, when Stephen and Susan have now retired at age 60. They require some big withdrawals from their pensions and ISAs to fund their retirement expenses. These withdrawals last until the age of 67, when their state pension kicks in. The brown parts of the bar illustrate the inflow of the state pension income each year. To put numbers to this, they will require a withdrawal rate in the region of 7.7% per year from the ages of 60 to 67. This would be considered a high withdrawal rate, and some may say not sustainable for the long term. This is because that after the investment returns of 5.6% and then accounting for the portfolio costs and inflation, by withdrawing around 7.7% requires selling down capital of the portfolio, and over time will likely result in depletion of the accounts. But when they reach the age of 67, they start receiving their state pension. This means they are not fully reliant on their investment portfolio to generate that income in retirement. The portfolio withdrawals are reduced from 7.7% to 4.8%, which is still higher than the net investment returns. As mentioned earlier, we're basing our projections on an expected rate of 5.6% annually. However, in reality, receiving a constant guaranteed return each year is unlikely. The returns will fluctuate each year. To address this, I'll conduct a volatility analysis. This is an assessment of how sensitive the plan may be to return rates varying over time. The plan is run through 1,000 market simulations with return rates varies each year. Each bar represents 1 year and illustrates the chance of success of Stephen and Susan having enough money to cover expenditure in that particular year. So each green bar illustrates 75% or above of the trials in that particular year were successful. So you can see that at the start of their retirement, up until age 79, they have a really good outcome, and the chances of them not running out of funds before the age of 79 are very high. The yellow bar charts indicate when the trials were less than 75%, but above 60% were successful. So between the ages of 80 and 84, the outcome is looking less good for Stephen and Susan. And finally, the red bars illustrate less than 60% of the trials in that particular year were successful. Again, towards the end of the projected timeline, the outcome doesn't look good, and the chances of them running out of money are very high. In terms of actual percentage chances, the range of goal progress graph illustrates the overall goal progress across 1,000 trials. Currently, Stephen and Susan have a 56% likelihood of achieving a successful retirement without running out of money. While the 56% chance may be perceived as relatively low, optimal target should ideally be above 85%. To provide another perspective, this translates to a 44% chance of needing to make significant adjustments during retirement, rather than a 56% chance of financial success. These adjustments might involve returning to work, cutting back on retirement expenses, selling property to generate funds, or taking on higher investment risk. These are just a few potential adjustments, providing a glimpse into possible scenarios they might encounter. After viewing their current situation, you should ask the question, is their plan sustainable? Can they afford a retirement lifestyle of £2,500 per month or £30,000 a year and spend an additional £5,000 per year on holidays for the first 15 years of retirement? The answer is no. They are going to have to make some changes in order to have a successful retirement. So we discussed the options available with Stephen and Susan, and we came up with a strategy. Our initial strategy involved a comprehensive review of the existing pensions and ISAs. We discovered that their retirement portfolio incurred substantial costs amounting to 2.45% per year. Consequently, we recommended a shift from their current financial advisor to a modern, flexible, and cost-effective platform. We also advised them to invest in a globally diversified, low-cost portfolio tailored to their risk profile. With their current portfolio valued at £500,000, and the total annual charges of 2.45%, they were spending approximately £12,250 annually on costs and charges. Through working with streamlined financial planning, we successfully lowered the total charges to 1%, resulting in a significant saving of around £7,250 per year. Upon implementing this strategy, the retirement score, as shown in the line chart, showed a notable increase. By reducing the costs of their portfolio, they now save around £7,250 annually, elevating the retirement outlook to 66%. This underscores the importance of scrutinizing over costs, as it can have a profound impact on your long-term financial well-being. Retirement is long. Our projection assumes a retirement of 35 years. As they have had no preparation for retirement, it was suggested that they take a phased retirement approach. This means that they reduce their hours over the course of the first 5 years of retirement. In this cash flow, we have assumed that they would cut their hours by 50%, resulting in receiving half of their current pay. So when I press this button, we are going to see the impact on their retirement outcome compared to their current situation. We can see that by Steve and Susan working part-time, they delay accessing their retirement portfolio by 5 years. This means a further 5 years of investment growth and more wealth in their pensions and ISAs. You can see this by a further increase in the line chart, and that their retirement score has jumped up to 97%. Extending their working years by an additional 5 years might feel like a significant stretch, particularly for those eager to retire as soon as possible. However, it's essential to shift our focus not only on what we're retiring from, but also on what we're retiring to. Preparation for retirement is a gradual process, taking months and at times years. Opting for a phased approach to retirement allows Stephen and Susan to leverage the added working years, not just for financial benefits, but also as a valuable period to initiate preparations for their retirement lifestyle. This thought approach ensures a smoother transition and a more fulfilling retirement experience. The third strategy that I've applied is incorporating a tax-efficient withdrawal plan. This allows Steve and Susan to manage their withdrawals on their portfolio in the most tax-efficient way. After all, we have worked so hard to get to the point of retirement. We don't want to be paying any unnecessary taxes. This makes the retirement score jump up to 101%. Overall, by applying these three strategies, you can see that the line chart, or the total liquid investments, has increased over the projected timeline. In fact, it looks like they will just have enough money to last their lifetime and not have much left over. And this was their objective. Going back to the volatility analysis, and as we previously discussed, this is an assessment of how sensitive the plan may be to return rates varying over time. This chart illustrates that they will have a high chance of not running out of money during retirement. You can see that more years have 75% or higher successful trials compared to the current plan. Towards the end of the projected timeline, this reduces, shown by the yellow and red bars. Again, this is where the big risk is for them, and this is due to the high costs of long-term care. The fact they are eating into their liquid wealth at this point to cover the costs. But overall, this looks a lot better than their current situation. Lastly, when we examine the range of goal progress graph in terms of actual percentage chances, it displays the overall goal progress across 1,000 trials. Currently, Stephen and Susan stand at a 56% chance likelihood of achieving a successful retirement without facing financial challenges. However, by implementing the strategies of cost reduction, extending their working years by 5, and adopting a tax-efficient withdrawal plan, this likelihood jumps up to 94%. Put it differently, this shift translates into a 6% chance of needing to make significant adjustments during retirement. This implies a 6% probability of returning to work, trimming retirement expenses, selling their property for additional funds, or taking on high investment risks. Overall, this outcome should bring them considerable satisfaction and confidence, as the chance of them running out of money is very low. Stephen and Susan's journey highlights the importance of holistic retirement planning. While they successfully accumulated wealth, their story underscores the risk of neglecting crucial aspects of their financial plan. The key lesson is to avoid procrastination in retirement planning. It's not a last-minute task. Instead, it's a gradual process that requires years of preparation. Planning well in advance ensures a smooth transition into retirement. Reducing costs is vital. Always ensure you understand how much you are paying in percentage and monetary terms. It is up to you to determine the value you receive from your financial advisor is worth some multiple of the fee. Once again, I'm Simon Alexander, founder of Streamlined Financial Planning. And if you have any questions about your retirement, please be sure to get in contact or visit us at streamlinefp.co.uk. Thanks for watching.